Well, this is chapter 23 of the speaker's primer. This is called Public Speaking. In this chapter, it goes back to the days of Greek civilization and education. And the education now talks about the sophists, who were traveling instructors who all had different degrees of training, but they all said they had a certain amount of training to let them teach you certain things. There were the former Greek schools. It talks about Isocrates and Plato's Academy. I'm not getting into this. If you're interested in Plato and some of these things, look them up. I'm not going to lecture on them right now, nor am I going to quiz you on them. So it's not something that's going to show up on your test. Talks about Aristotle. Of course, Plato and Aristotle are very fundamental. A lot of the things some of the things we talked about in this book have been a part of that. He goes back into ethos, pathos, and logos, which we've already talked about as the three different parts of persuasion. It gets into Cicero and the practice of rhetoric, speech and politics as we come forward. Cicero got into a number of things: invention, arrangement, delivery, memory, style as parts of the speaking process. Quintilian's public school, and then contemporary scholars in the speech communication process. Talked about the linear model of communication, which we talked about already. And it talks about the transactional model of communication, which we talked about already in chapter 1. This is somewhat repetitive. A big chunk of this chapter was talked about earlier. I do want to focus a little bit on speech as a force in our lives. We do have to understand public speaking is everywhere. It is everywhere. It's being done on the news. It's being done in politics. It's being done in your classroom. It's being done in your church. It's being done in your daily life. Public speaking is everywhere. It allows you to participate in civic engagement, possibly. Something that you can do. I had a student who was so passionate about one election that he did a video, posted it on Facebook, started sharing it around. And so this was after class was passed, and he sent me a video saying, "Hey, I wanted you to know I decided to use some public speaking," and he did. I've had multiple students tell me later in life that they were using it on a regular basis. One, he was a pastor, had become a youth pastor, and said, "I just wanted to." Honestly, he was probably one of my quieter students, but you just never know what it is you're going to do in life. And so, but speech is a force in our lives. It is a necessary thing in our lives. I already talked to you about the fact that you are going to do public speaking in your life, and it's one of the most important things you can learn. It's one of the most important things you can learn, and yet one class is required. That's it, you know. I went to a college where it was a theological college, a Bible college, and the men were required to take public speaking every semester for 4 years. At the end of 4 years, when graduation came around, and it was an unaccredited Bible college at the time, it became accredited later, major companies from all across the United States flooded to the campus of this college, trying to recruit their graduates. Why? Well, most likely because they knew that when those graduates walked out into the workspace, they could do public speaking. 4 years. That's 8 classes in public speaking, and every student was also required to be a part of a speech club. So I was in essentially a public speaking type class, 6 hours a week for 8 years. And when you walked out, everyone had experience in public speaking. Everyone knew how it worked. We probably graduated students at a higher level of public speaking than maybe any college, possibly before or since, I don't know. But this public speaking is important, and you're going to do it, and it's best to learn to do it well. That's the end of chapter